He was born on a small, rugged Mediterranean island, an outsider who spoke French with a heavy, unrefined accent, possessed no real wealth, and held no connections within the royal court. Yet within a single decade, his unmatched tactical genius, relentless ambition, and sheer willpower elevated him to the Emperor of the French, master of the continental of Europe, and one of the most formidable military minds in human history. Napoleon Bonaparte did not merely live through history, he forged it in fire and iron, permanently rewriting the law, politics, warfare, and borders of the modern world. Born on August 15, 1769, in Ajaccio, Corsica, Napoleon de Bonaparte was the second surviving child of minor Italian origin nobility. Just months before his birth, France had annexed Corsica, transforming young Napoleon into a French subject. At age 9, he left his home island for mainland France to attend elite military academies at Braine-le-Château and later École Militaire in Paris. Short in stature compared to his older classmates, teased for his provincial accent, and lacking the wealth of the French aristocracy, Napoleon became a fiercely independent, solitary student. He spent countless hours devoured by books, obsessively studying ancient history, mathematics, geography, and the artillery tactics of classical commanders like Alexander the Great, Hannibal, and Julius Caesar. When the French Revolution erupted in 1789, it shattered the centuries-old feudal order and opened a path of rapid mobility that would have been completely impossible under the ancient regime. In 18th century Europe, high military rank was reserved almost exclusively for high-born aristocrats. The revolution changed everything, replacing birthright with talent and ruthlessness. Napoleon's first major breakthrough came in 1793 during the siege of Toulon, where royalist rebels, backed by an Anglo-Spanish fleet, held a vital southern port. The 24-year-old artillery captain devised a brilliant, aggressive, tactical plan to capture key high ground overlooking the harbor. By positioning his cannon on the heights of the Igelete, Napoleon rained heavy artillery down onto the enemy ships, forcing the British Royal Navy to evacuate and liberating the city. For his decisive action and courage under fire, he was promoted overnight from captain to brigadier general. His rise accelerated in 1895, when he raised and saved the revolutionary government in Paris from an armed royalist uprising. Given command of the city's defense, Napoleon famously ordered his troops to fire a whiff of grape shot, cannon packed with lead iron balls directly into the advancing mob. The ruthlessness cleared the streets in minutes and secured his reputation as a man who would do whatever was necessary to maintain order. Reward came quickly: command of the French Army of Italy. In 1896, taking charge of a ragged, starving, and severely demoralized force of 37,000 men in northern Italy, Napoleon executed a dazzling military campaign. In a series of lightning maneuvers, he separated and defeated the superior armies of the Kingdom of Sardinia and the Austrian Empire. He ignored traditional 18th century military etiquette, marching his troops day and night, striking enemy forces before they could concentrate and living off the land. He captured northern Italy, looted priceless artworks to send back to Paris, and forced Vienna to sign the Treaty of Campo Formio. He returned to France not just as an effective general, but as an irreplaceable national hero. Recognizing that the corrupt governing directory in Paris was crumbling under financial crisis and political instability, Napoleon seized his moment. On November 9, 1799, the 18th Brumaire in the revolutionary calendar, he orchestrated a bloodless coup d'etat alongside political co-conspirators. They abolished the Directory, established the French consulate, and appointed Napoleon as first consul. At just 30 years old, Napoleon was the undisputed political and military ruler of France. As ruler, Napoleon proved to be formidable, an administrator and visionary as he was a general. He stabilized the ruined economy, founded the Bank of France, reconstructed secondary education, built roads and canals, and reconciled France and the Catholic Church through the Concordat of 1801. His most enduring domestic legacy, however, was the Napoleonic Code of 1804. This unified rational legal system replaced a chaotic patchwork of feudal laws across France. It guaranteed freedom of religion, abolished feudal privileges, established equality rights before the law, and protected property rights. The code became the foundation for civil law systems across Europe, Latin America, and beyond. To solidify his domestic authority and deter royalist assassination plots, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself Emperor of the French at Notre Dame Cathedral on December 2, 1804, taking the crown from Pope Pius VIII's head and placing it on his own head. Alarmed by France's growing power, European monarchies formed the Third Coalition, led by Great Britain, Austria, and Russia, to destroy him. What followed was Napoleon's strategic masterpiece, the War of the Third Coalition. In 1805, Napoleon marched his newly trained Grande Armée across the Rhine with astounding speed, capturing an entire Austrian army at Ulm without a major pitched battle. Then came the Battle of Austerlitz on December 2, 1805, exactly 1 year after his imperial coronation. Facing the combined armies of the Russian Tsar Alexander I and the Austrian Emperor Francis II, Napoleon pulled off a tactical masterclass. Feigning weakness on his right flank, he baited the Allied commanders into abandoning the strategic Pratzen Heights in an attempt to crush his line. Once the Allies committed their reserves, Napoleon launched a devastating surprise counterattack right through the weakened Allied center, splitting their forces in two and smashing them completely. Austerlitz remains widely regarded as one of the greatest tactical triumphs in the history of all military. At its height in 1812, the French emperor stretched from Spain to the borders of Russia, encompassing over 40 million subjects. Napoleon placed his brothers, sisters, and loyal marshals on the thrones of satellite kingdoms in Italy, Spain, Naples, and Westphalia. Yet boundless ambition bred fatal overreach. In 1807, Napoleon invaded the Iberian Peninsula to enforce his continental system, a naval blockade designed to cripple Great Britain economically by banning British trade from continental ports. The decision sparked the Peninsular War in Spain and Portugal. Spanish patriots fought back using brutal guerrilla warfare, tying down hundreds of thousands of French troops for years in a bloody, exhausting conflict that Napoleon later referred to as his Spanish ulcer. This ultimate catastrophe occurred in June 1812 when Napoleon launched his invasion of Russia with a massive multinational force of 600,000 men. He aimed to force the Tsar Alexander I back into the continental system. Instead of offering a decisive battle, the Russian armies adopted a relentless, scorched earth strategy, retreating deep into the vast interior while burning crops, stores, and villages ahead of the advancing French. Napoleon won a Pyrrhic, blood-soaked victory at the Battle of Borodino in September and entered Moscow shortly after. However, he found a deserted city that was soon set ablaze by Russian saboteurs. With no food, no quartering, and no surrender offering from the Tsar, Napoleon was forced to order a retreat in October. The brutal Russian winter set in early, temperatures plummeted far below zero, turning the retreat into a nightmare of starvation, frostbite, disease, and relentless attacks by Russian Cossacks. By the time the remnants of the Grande Army staggered back across the Nemenian River, fewer than 100,000 men had survived out of the previous 600,000. Smelling blood, a sixth coalition of Austria, Prussia, Russia, Great Britain, and Sweden united against the weakened emperor. Despite winning impressive tactical victories in Germany with a hastily raised army of young conscripts, Napoleon was heavily outnumbered and decisively defeated at the massive 4-day Battle of Leipzig in October 1813, known as the Battle of the Nations. By March 1814, Allied arms had invaded France and captured Paris. Abandoned by his top marshals who refused to fight on, Napoleon was forced to abdicate the throne on April 11, 1814. He was exiled to the small Mediterranean island of Elba. Yet his story was far from over. In March 1815, after just 10 months on Elba, Napoleon slipped past British warships with a handful of loyal guards and landed on the southern coast of France. The troop sent by the newly restored Bourbon king Louis the 18th to arrest him defected to his side. The moment they saw their emperor, Napoleon famously stepped forward, opened his coat, and shouted to the king's soldiers, "If there's any soldier among you who would kill his emperor, here I am." The troops erupted in cheers of "Vive l'Empereur." Napoleon marched into Paris without firing a single shot, reclaiming his empire in the legendary period known as the 100 Days. The European army immediately declared Napoleon an outlaw and assembled a massive Allied army to crush him once and for all, knowing he had to strike before their forces could combine. Napoleon marched rapidly into Belgium. On June 18, 1815, on a muddy, rain-soaked field near the town of Waterloo, Napoleon fought his final battle against the Anglo-Allied army under the command of Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington. Napoleon launched brutal, repeated infantry and cavalry assaults against Wellington's Liege, but the Allied lines held firm. Late in the afternoon, the Prussian army under Field Marshal Gebhard Lebeckert von Bulkier arrived on the French right flank. Trapped between two armies, the veteran French Imperial Guard was broken for the first time in history, and Napoleon's army collapsed into a chaotic rout. Napoleon abdicated a second return to determine to ensure he could never return. The British exiled him to St. Helena, a remote, barren volcanic island in the middle of the southern Atlantic Ocean, over 1,000 miles from the nearest landmass. Surrounded by guards, living under constant surveillance and enduring harsh weather in a damp house at Longwood, the former master of Europe spent his final 6 years dictating his memoirs, carefully shaping his own historical legacy. On May 5, 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte died at the age of 51, officially from stomach cancer. In 1840, his remains were brought back to Paris in a grand state procession, where he was laid to rest under a massive rose porphyry sarcophagus inside Les Invalides. Napoleon Bonaparte remains an important, complex, and controversial figure. Critics view him as an authoritarian megalomaniac whose unquenchable thirst for personal glory resulted in millions of casualties all across Europe. Admirers view him as an enlightened administrator and military genius who modernized legal systems, dismantled feudal privileges, and introduced meritocracy to a continent bound by old aristocratic dynasties. Ultimately, his life stands as a testament to the power of individual ambition. A man from a quiet island who rose from nothing to hold the fate of an entire continent into his own feeble and small hands. This is the life of Napoleon Bonaparte.